Canadá acaba de destrozar a Donald Trump al cierre de la conferencia ASEAN. El primer ministro de Canadá, Mark Carney, dijo textualmente: "No me importa un comino los delirios ni los berrinches de Donald Trump como un lunático. Cuando Donald Trump quiera comportarse como un adulto, Canadá estará aquí". Le preguntaron a Mark Carney: ¿estás molesto porque el primer ministro de Ontario, Doug Ford, hizo estas publicaciones sobre Ronald Reagan que afectaron a Donald Trump? Y Mark Carney respondió: mira, somos adultos, así que tenemos que calmarnos. Así que cuando Estados Unidos quiera comportarse como un adulto, vamos a estar listos. Luego Doug Ford apareció en CNN con Jake Tapper. Por cierto, Jake Tapper le hizo pésimas preguntas, pero Doug Ford respondió: ¿por qué están molestos? Simplemente reproducimos las palabras de Ronald Reagan. Y le molesta a su presidente niño que nosotros pongamos textualmente lo que Ronald Reagan, que es republicano, dijo. Pues no es nuestra culpa. Solo estamos reproduciendo las palabras en las que Reagan dice que no apoya los aranceles. Así que déjame demostrarte lo que ocurrió al final de la conferencia ASEAN. Esto fue en Malasia y el primer ministro Mark Carney dio una rueda de prensa. Quiero mostrarte lo que pasó. Observa lo que pasa cuando le preguntan si ha hablado con Donald Trump. Porque Mark Carney simplemente responde que no. Miren por favor.
Have you had any contact with President Trump since Thursday?
I have not.
Given that President Trump said today on Air Force One, I don't know if you heard this, but in the last hour he said he doesn't plan to meet with you for a long time. Is it worth continuing to pursue a discussion, a meeting, a phone call with him at this point?
I didn't see the comment. Look, we stand ready to sit down with the United States, myself with the President, my colleagues with their colleagues, when the U.S. is ready to sit down. We had made considerable progress on a supplement to the trading relationship that we had, considerable progress in the areas of steel, aluminum, and energy, associated areas as well. And as I just said, we're ready to sit down when they are ready to do that. If they're not ready to do that, as those comments indicate, then we were always going to do these things, to be clear. We're going to first and foremost build our economy, build it with generational investments, and you will see that not just the scale of ambition, but the speed with which we put that into effect in the budget on November 4th, and continue to do what we've been doing over the course of the last few days and over the course of recent months, which is to build those other partnerships and deepen those other partnerships on which we're getting very much traction. Thank you.
El primer ministro Mark Carney habló sobre el anuncio de Ronald Reagan. Mira, por favor.
President Trump says he's canceled these trade talks because he's upset about the Ontario government ad. We've heard from the Business Council of Canada and even some of President Trump's own advisors who suggest the frustration with Canada runs deeper. So is this about the ads or is this about something else?
Well, look, as I say, and there were a series of very detailed, very specific, very comprehensive discussions, negotiations on the areas I just listed to in response to the previous question, up until the point of those ads running. First point. Second point, I would suggest you take the president at his word for his reason. And that is the reason why, from the perspective of the federal government, which I'm responsible, we stand ready to pick up on those discussions when the United States wishes to pick up on those discussions. So those in the room, those exchanging term sheets, those having the discussions about specific areas where we can make mutual progress to the benefit of workers and businesses and communities in our respective countries, had been making progress. Those ads came, the president had the reactions which you have seen, made the decisions that he has made, which, you know, those are his decisions to take, and we're in the situation we're in.
Alguien le hizo una buena pregunta a Mark Carney. Le dijo: oye, ¿tú crees que si Donald Trump les puso 10% más de aranceles, todo esto por el anuncio publicitario de Ontario, crees que él tenga ganas de tener conversaciones con ustedes? Y Mark Carney respondió: mira, hay varias áreas donde deberíamos de tener conversaciones, más que todo refiriéndonos a conversaciones comerciales. Si ellos no quieren tenerlas, pues nosotros tampoco. Canadá se va a enfocar en lo que sí puede controlar. Perfecto, mira el clip.
Prime Minister, given everything that we've seen, Do you really think the United States is interested in making a trade deal with Canada?
Look, we are their second largest trading partner. We provide a series of essential goods for their economy. We are one of many providers, but we provide in some areas essential goods for their economy. And we create more room for them to do other things. I'll give you an example. If you look at Canadian exports of aluminum to the United States, and aluminum is bauxite and energy. I mean, there's a little more to it, but you can simplify it to that. The embedded energy in the Canadian aluminum exports, which provides 60% of the aluminum to the U.S. market, is the equivalent of the energy of 10 Hoover dams in the United States. Now, is the best use of that scale of energy, creating that scale of energy to make aluminum in the United States, as opposed to continue to foster and power the AI revolution, which the U.S. is leading, or power homes and others. I mean, these are decisions for the United States to make. Point being, as a supplier to the United States, and I gave aluminum as one, I could give many examples, we are an important supplier in many areas. As well, we are a large customer. For over 30 states, Canada is the largest export customer for those states in the United States. So there is a very strong, deep trading relationship, and there is an alignment of interests in many areas. And that's the reason why we have elements of the arrangements that we have today with a large degree of low tariff trade and the benefits from that. We're ready to have those discussions to further improve them, and we'll have them when it's appropriate. But we're not resting because we can build. The return on building at home is far greater than the hit from trade turbulence with the United States, and the opportunities internationally are considerable. And candidly, Canada has not focused on the relationships to the same extent as we should have in any trading environment with the United States, let alone a situation where they're changing their trade policy. And that's what we're doing now.
Hubo otro momento en el que le hicieron preguntas sobre Donald Trump. Mira.
Donald Trump says he doesn't want to see you at all at APEC. Well, has the Canadian government given any consideration to the possibility that he doesn't want to negotiate, and do you have a contingency plan for that?
We have yes. The short answer is yes. To your follow-up, no, I'm not about to detail those contingency plans. But I will go to the big, obvious plan that is there in plain sight and will be further detailed in the budget on November 4th. And we have been saying this for months. I said this before I was elected. Emphasize the importance of us giving ourselves far more than any foreign government could take away, whatever the trading environment. And that's to build at home and to build strong at home. And we intend to unleash hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars of investment right here at home. Well, not right here, but metaphorically there at home in Canada while we're building these partnerships.
Less than a month ago, you were at the White House. You seemed very cordial, friendly with President Trump. The two of you were joking. You said you were going to walk away with a good deal. He said that we would be very happy. Is the U.S. toying with Canada? And how did your relationship with Donald Trump go south so fast?
It's a question for him.
Luego el primer ministro Mark Carney, que sí se comporta como un adulto, le hace la siguiente pregunta. ¿Estás molesto por lo que publicó el primer ministro de Ontario, Doug Ford? O sea, refiriéndose al anuncio en el que sale Ronald Reagan. Y Mark Carney respondió, mira, cuando tienes negociaciones complejas, siempre ocurren cosas variadas. Tenemos que mantener la calma y ser responsables. Las relaciones tienen giros y vueltas y yo solo puedo controlar lo que está bajo mi control. Esto demuestra el nivel de madurez que tiene que tener un líder. Y yo creo que Mark Carney lo ejemplifica de una forma que da bastante contraste con Donald Trump. Mira, por favor.
If it is true that a TV ad, that you were close to a deal exchanging term sheets, and a TV ad caused all of this to be canceled, halted. Trump does not want to meet. Are you upset at Premier Doug Ford for running this ad? If this is true that this ad spoiled something that was very close?
Look, I'd say the following, which is that in any complicated, high-stakes negotiation, you can get unexpected twists and turns, and you have to keep your cool during those situations. It doesn't pay to be upset. Emotions don't carry you very far. And we had made progress to repeat. And we stand by the progress that had been made. The government of Canada does. And we are ready, when appropriate, to pick that up. And I'll just re-emphasize that it is the responsibility of the government of Canada to have these negotiations. And others will have opinions, and others welcome free advice, unsolicited advice is entirely appropriate. Every Canadian is a stakeholder in these negotiations. Every Canadian is a stakeholder in the fact that we're making progress in ASEAN, that we have the agreement with Indonesia, that we have just decided to accelerate trade talks with Philippines, with ASEAN as a whole. Every Canadian has a stakeholder, is a stakeholder in the evolution of our relationship with China and the discussions that we will be having at APEC with giants there. So that's the focus.
Y luego el primer ministro de Canadá, Mark Carney, dice que sí, se va a reunir con Xi Jinping, el dirigente de China. Y dice que tiene mucho que hablar porque, según Mark Carney, Canadá está considerando a China como un gran socio comercial. Es más, considera que China es un socio comercial más confiable que Estados Unidos. ¿Y por qué no lo harían, basándose en todo el comportamiento que ha llevado Estados Unidos últimamente? Mira, por favor.
Just to cast things ahead to where you're going later this week in Korea, can you give us an update on, do you expect to meet the Chinese president at APEC? And what kind of conversations do you expect to have with the Chinese delegation there?
I do expect to, there are plans for me and President Xi to meet. We will pick up on the discussions I had with Premier Li in New York a few weeks ago, a broad range of issues, both in terms of the commercial relationship, as well as the evolution of the global system. So I look forward to the meeting with the president.
Ahora quiero mostrarte lo que dice Doug Ford en CNN, donde termina diciendo misión cumplida. Mira, por favor.
CNN's news gathering partner, CBC, reports that your anti-Trump rhetoric, your criticism of Trump, came up repeatedly during trade negotiations. Was that intentional at all, being the bad cop?
Well, I've never said anything personal about President Trump. In our ad, it was very ironic that President Trump saw it and he said, yeah, that was a good ad. If I was Canada, I'd run the same ad. And then all of a sudden he wakes up in the morning, someone whispers something in his ear, and now he's not happy. But it was an ad to inform the people in the US, and mission accomplished.
Ahora, Doug Ford dice, yo creo que sí transmitimos el mensaje. 11.4 mil millones de impresiones. Mira el clip, por favor.
You said this morning that this was, quote, the most successful ad in the history of North America. Is the additional 10% tariff on Canadians also part of that success?
Well, first of all, Jake, thanks for having me on. I start off every interviewing saying that Canadians love Americans. I love America. I love Americans. I lived there for 20 years. And that my intention was to bring this to the American people and tell them that tariffs, protectionism does not work. Ronald Reagan was a free trader, the greatest president, in my opinion, ever. And we wanted to get the message out. And did the message get out? 100%. It had 11.4 billion with a B impressions, we talk in the media, but views around the world. And again, we just want to make sure that we work side by side with our closest friends and allies. A tariff on Canada is a tax on Americans. President Trump ran on creating more jobs. We've seen 5 consecutive months. Manufacturing jobs are down. We've seen inflation go up. That's not what President Trump ran on. And we want to be the solution. And the way we get back on track is sign a deal with your largest number one customer in the world, and that's Canada.
Ahora quiero que veas cómo incluso Jake Tapper formula esa pregunta. Tapper es un perdedor.
Canada's unemployment rate, as I'm sure I don't need to tell you, is now at its highest point in 9 years. Do you have any regrets about stirring the pot, possibly making things harder on your fellow Canadians due to this retaliation from President Trump?
No, I don't believe so. The person that started this whole thing around the world, not just with Canada, is President Trump. And the American people are finally feeling the effects of tariffs. And it's going to continue. The more tariffs, it's more of a tax on Americans and less jobs for America. If anyone reads into many speeches Ronald Reagan did after the free trade agreement with Canada, with former Prime Minister Brian Mulroney, which is no longer with us, he was one of my mentors, and he created more jobs, not only in Canada, but also in the U.S. than we've ever seen. Again, protectionism does not work. We want to create more jobs in the U.S., more jobs in Canada. I believe in the AMCAN fortress, which is the American-Canadian fortress. And let's be the wealthiest, richest, safest two countries in the entire world. We have so much to offer the Americans that we give them, no matter if it's our oil or our uranium or our potash that keeps your agriculture sector, or nickel, high-grade nickel from Ontario. And the auto sector, they're losing billions of dollars every year now because of these tariffs.
Luego Don Ford dice, mira, yo tengo un trabajo que es proteger la economía más grande de Canadá. Y eso es lo que pienso hacer. Mira el clip, por favor.
After you spoke with your Prime Minister, Mark Carney, you paused the campaign, effective today, so that trade talks could resume. Did Carney demand that you do that?
No, he doesn't demand anything off me. I have a job to protect the largest economy in Canada, the engine of Canada, 16.5 million people, and that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm protecting the steel jobs, the auto jobs, the life science jobs, the manufacturing jobs. That's my duty as the Premier of Ontario.
On November 4th, our government will table the first federal budget, our first federal budget. And that'll be our plan to protect our communities, our borders, our way of life. Our plan to build a stronger economy where everyone has a chance to get ahead. And our plan to empower Canadians with new opportunities, better careers, at a lower cost of living. Central to those missions is our intention to double our non-U.S. exports over the course of the next decade. That alone will generate $300 billion in more trade, new orders for Canadian resources, Canadian industries, and Canadian expertise. I chose my summit for my first visit as Prime Minister to Asia because the Canada-ASEAN relationship is full of potential. This is a region of nearly 700 million consumers with a market worth over $5 trillion. It's already Canada's second largest trading partner with over $260 billion in two-way merchandise trade alone. Yet, even at those levels, it still only represents about 10% of our exports. To build those exports, to double our non-U.S. exports, our government is working to strike a series of new trade deals, including here in the Indo-Pacific. In the past few months, we've signed new agreements with the United Arab Emirates in artificial intelligence, with the European Union in defense and broader trade, with Germany in critical minerals, with Mexico in agri-food. We signed a free trade deal with Ecuador that reduces or eliminates tariffs on the majority of Canadian exports. And last month, in Ottawa, we concluded a historic free trade agreement with Indonesia, Canada's first bilateral free trade agreement with an ASEAN nation. This week in Kuala Lumpur, we agreed to accelerate progress on a new Canada-ASEAN free trade agreement, targeting completion of that agreement next year. Yesterday, I met with the Prime Ministers of Laos and Vietnam, as well as the President of the Philippines, to move those talks forward. Now, that deal would add about $1.5 billion to our economy, giving Canadian workers and businesses greater access to this fast-growing market. In fact, probably, arguably, the fastest-growing market in the world. And would create jobs for Canadian workers in sectors ranging from critical minerals to clean tech, agri-food, aerospace, and advanced manufacturing, all while lowering prices for Canadian consumers on goods like electronics and clothing. In addition, President Marcos of the Philippines and I agreed yesterday to launch talks on a new free trade agreement between our two nations, again with the goal of concluding that agreement next year. This week, we also made significant progress on energy. Today, Canada and Malaysia signed a letter of intent to deepen investment in liquefied natural gas, and oil, nuclear power, and renewables. I met with the CEO and the senior management of Petronas, one of the world's largest energy companies and already a major investor in LNG in Canada, LNG Canada Phase 1, LNG facility in Kitimat, British Columbia. Now, Phase 2 of this project will double production, making the project as a whole the second largest LNG facility in the world, creating tens of thousands of new high-paying Canadian careers. That project, Phase 2, has been referred to our new major projects office because we want it built, and we want it built faster to the benefit of Canadians, including Indigenous partners in the project. Together with Petronas, we are exploring other new opportunities to expand our partnership and strengthen Canada's role as a reliable energy supplier.
Y bueno amigos, yo acabo de cumplir con mi misión, que es informarte como lo hago absolutamente todos los días. Como siempre te digo, para mí lo más importante es tu opinión y me encantaría que la pongas en los comentarios. Además, si este video te gustó, te va a encantar suscribirte al canal, ya que subo videos así todos los días. Mi nombre es José Alvarado, soy economista y estoy comprometido con informarte diariamente. Nos vemos en el siguiente video. Adiós.